Hi, I'm Lizzie, and welcome to Styling Matters, a podcast about style, confidence, and modern midlife without chasing every trend. Here we talk about personal style, shopping more thoughtfully, and feeling good in what we wear at every stage of life. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to another episode of Styling Matters. I'm your host, Lizzie Richardson, and today I am going to be bringing you a topic about style that I think you felt in the past and perhaps didn't know how to deal with it. And this is when someone keeps copying your style. Think back to, have you ever bought something that you absolutely love? You might have been saving for it, it might have been on your watch list and you've mentioned it to a few people and that, and you finally get it and you're wearing it to find that only a few days later that whoever it is that is copying your style has also bought the same item, maybe in a different color, but at the end of the day, it's the fact that it's no longer unique to you or your style. And it can feel so frustrating. So stay with me because I've actually got 6 practical tips that is so easy to do. It will give you more confidence with your own style, perhaps even get you out of your comfort zone a bit. And it will be harder for anybody, whether it's a work colleague, whether it's a family member. The person I have in my head is sisterly rivalry. When I was thinking about this, I can imagine sisters quite often are copying each other's style. But you do have the work colleagues, and that, especially if you're all shopping in the same shop, I think that's half the problem. If you're in a small town, not got many shops to shop around, and then you see somebody that you really, really love their style, and without knowing it, you end up picking up a few items that's very similar to them or exactly the same as them. And then you, as the recipient of that kind of decision making, can feel a bit like your style is being copied. Let's get into the episode. I've got 6 fabulous tips coming up for you. One of the first things you can do is actually start planning for the next season as early as you possibly can. So I'm recording this podcast in the month of August, and that means coming up mid-September, end of September, we're going to go into autumn, winter. And obviously, it does depend on where you live, where you are with your weather. But quite naturally, especially as I'm recording in the UK, for me, that is going to be autumn, winter, and we're right in the midst of summer right now. I've got my summer wardrobe. That's a done deal. I'm not really planning on buying anything more for summer. So I can now start turning my head into the season ahead. What I think fashionistas do really, really well, and if you've not been doing this, this is definitely an opportunity for you. And that is to make the most of the transitional season. So, this is when we get towards the first sort of 3 to 4 weeks of a new fashion season. And this is where you start to include, whether it's through color palette, whether it's through texture, whether it's an actual outfit. And what I mean by that, it might be like a trouser suit or a dress, a real statement piece that no longer says the season you are in, it says the next season is coming. It's quite dramatic, actually, and it's a lot of fun to be in the transitional period. I actually really enjoy this time, and it does have its challenges. When I think back to when I do this for spring, summer, wearing spring clothes very early when it's still very cold of winter can be difficult. But personally, I'd rather be seen in what's coming ahead than being like late to the party. I think it's slightly easier when you're transferring from summer, so a warm climate, into autumn, winter. Autumn obviously has warmer days too, so it feels a little bit easier. But you can really think about the color palette of the next season. Maybe it's a statement jacket, maybe it's already get the boots and start to wear them early. start to blend two seasons. And then that way, you naturally look ahead of the game. And I think that will very naturally give you confidence. Not many people, and I can honestly say this hand on heart, not many people are very confident to start wearing the next season early. It is definitely a game changer. It definitely puts you in a different category to the people around you because it's quite daring to do that, especially if you go quite bold. People are still wearing summer dresses, and then you've walked in with a really fabulous trouser suit into the office that clearly doesn't say summer, then yeah, you're making a bold statement, and that's quite a fun place to be. Another tip, and it is about, again, planning ahead for the next season. It's planning your looks way in advance. What do you want to be wearing in the season ahead? Where are you going to buy those pieces for the season ahead? What are the looks that you're creating that can actually be recreated? And what I mean by this, again, we're going to take the trouser suit as an example because it's probably visually what I can transfer better. So you obviously going to wear it together. And when you first purchase it, you're going to be wearing it together. But by the time, if somebody copies a very similar trouser suit or the exact same one, by the time you've worn it multiple times as a full trouser suit, you'll no longer really want to do that. And what you'll end up doing very naturally is you'll wear the jacket with a new statement dress, or you'll wear the trousers with a jumper style completely different. So by the time they've made their purchasing decision, they're wearing it, yours will have evolved. And that's really key. You'd have done that and evolved into the next. And it doesn't mean that you can't continue to wear it. It just means your style game has just elevated up to another level, that you've taken that piece and you're doing more with it. Now, they are likely to copy that, but that's okay. Because if you keep planning different looks, if you keep with your inspiration and wearing and mixing with your existing wardrobe and mixing and matching with different accessories, you are never going to look the same. I've done multiple episodes about constantly changing how you wear the same item. You shouldn't be wearing the look head to toe again for at least another 8 weeks. Every time you wear it between that 8 weeks, you should be playing with different items in the wardrobe, playing with different accessories, playing with different handbags. So you've got the same basics, but you're never going to be seen wearing it exactly the same again. And that, my dear friend, is what's called styling. Now, as part of your research, you should be looking at brands. So you should be looking at the brands that you love, be looking at their lookbooks for the season ahead. What are you loving? But then you should take elements of their lookbooks and go, can I buy from somewhere different? Just to make it a little bit different. So you don't look like that person from the days when I used to shop in store of walking in and literally buying head to toe what's on the mannequin. You should be taking that lookbook and be going, I don't want to wear head to toe of the same brand. Just want to take elements of that. And where can I adapt the other pieces? So you take one look, and the first shopping you should be doing is your own wardrobe. What have you already got? Are the silhouettes matching like for like? Can you get as close to that? Body proportions is all very important to create modern looks. So after you've really looked through your wardrobe and gone, I don't need to buy that shirt. I already have a shirt very, very similar. That way, it's harder for people to copy as well because you've already shopped your own wardrobe. You're not completely new. I would then really challenge you with going with, can you go that next level up with the brand? So if you always shop, for example, Marks and Spencer's at that price point, could you go that next level up to COS? COS is normally about 20-25% more than Marks and Spencer's. Could you, just for that statement piece, just for that new season piece, could you go up a level? Because again, Changing and going up a level with your brands is going to give you a point of difference. And if you're shopping in different brands to what you normally do, this will give you a chance to step away from what's making it easy to copy about you. Okay. The other element is, and this is another piece that I think you can have fun with right now, particularly if you're on holiday, is let's consider foreign brands. Some of the most exciting pieces I have owned in my wardrobe, I have not purchased in my own country. I have purchased in Portugal, in Italy, in New York. They are what I call foundational pieces. They're like the little black dress, or even one of my favorite ones from Portugal was a Zara jumpsuit. And on the day that I bought this Zara jumpsuit in Portugal, I actually couldn't believe how cheap it was because Zara in the UK is not always that cheap, but in Portugal, the price points are a lot lower. So I was having quite a fun time in this Zara shopping day. But I found this black jumpsuit. And when I came back to the UK, everybody asked me about it. I spent a lot of time trying to find this jumpsuit online because, given what I do, I'm in a slightly different place in the fact that I tell people where I buy stuff. I share where to buy things from. So it's this actual topic's quite difficult for me because it will be a little bit amiss of me going, well, I'm wearing all this and this is where it's from, and now you can't buy it. As time has gone on, 15 years I've been doing this, I've come to realize that if I want my community to really value the content that I bring, then I have to accept that sometimes, particularly people I know, are going to be in very similar stuff. And I do see that. And actually, I find that really lovely. I actually am really touched. And especially when they come up to me and go, I bought these because I saw you wearing them. So for me, I am in a different place. Coming back to this Zara jumpsuit, I really, really tried to find it online. And then what I came to realize was I bought it in a different country, even though it's the same brand. And of course, they're going to have a different offering for that country. And also taking in another layer of it, which I'm going to come on to in a bit more detail in my next tip. But what they have in store is not always online. So therefore, did I buy a jumpsuit that was never online in the first place? And obviously it was for the Portugal market and not for the British market. So that actually really made me think that had a lot of value to my own style. And when I've been away since, I quite like shopping in the brands that I love that are really, really popular in foreign cities. I'll give you another example. I was in Rome. This wasn't under great circumstances. I was actually unwell in Rome. I had some mosquito bites and my legs swelled up, and the clothing that I had with me, talk about ultra light packing. This really went against me. You know, like when you do a city break, you think, I'm going to travel light, I'm only going to take a few options. Well, that's fine until you're not well, because my legs swelled up, and every item of clothing that I had at that time, the trend was very much skinny jeans or slimline trousers. So everything I took couldn't accommodate swollen legs. Even my footwear, luckily, I took a pair of flip-flops, which I wouldn't normally do to the city, by the way, but I actually had the flip-flops really more for being around the hotel room, funny enough. And I ended up having to wear the flip-flops because my feet had swollen as well. But the point of the story is I ended up in Mango in Rome, and I had to find wide leg trousers, stroke jumpsuit, whatever I could physically fit into, given the reaction I had to these mosquito bites. Well, it wasn't just mosquito bites, it was also very hot in Rome. So the combination of that with the bites and that I was doing a lot of walking, my legs really swelled. And I also wanted to cover up the problem. and I got this green jumpsuit. And it did look more for the office rather than for a city break. But I thought to myself, well, I can wear it when I get back, and I don't know how long my legs are going to be swollen for. So I was really trying to think what's the best thing to buy right now for my situation. This green jumpsuit, I came on to wear for the next 3 to 4 years, and I wore it to the office loads. And if I had a pound for every time someone asked me where I got it from, and saying, oh, I got it in Rome, actually sounded so super chic that actually I was quite chuffed. So if you're on holiday right now and you are across Europe, then go to Zara, go to Mango, go to these shops and pick something that you will be very happy to wear to the office. Because trust me, when you kind of glide down the office runway, as I like to call it, nobody can copy it. Nobody. It could copy the style, as in like it's a jumpsuit or it's the color green, but they can't actually copy that one item. And I love that forever uniqueness. There's something very special about that. In fact, when I was in New York earlier on this year, I tried really hard to find something of that nature, but it didn't really come off. So it doesn't always happen every time you go away, but it's definitely worth visiting popular brands in foreign countries, which I know you wouldn't typically do naturally, but I know it works. I just want to take a quick moment to tell you about something I've genuinely been enjoying for the last 18 months. If you've been spending more time exploring alcohol-free drinks, or you simply looking for something a little bit more interesting than another sparkling water, then I think you're going to love what Mother Root are creating. For me, it's become part of my after-work routine. I used to automatically reach for the glass of wine whilst I was cooking dinner, but these days I've swapped that for Mother Root, over ice with soda water, a slice of lemon and a sprig of rosemary. I serve it in a tumbler and it still gives me that end of the day ritual, just without the alcohol. I love sipping it whilst I'm cooking, and by the time dinner is ready, I'm ready to eat. Making that simple swap has helped me cut back on alcohol, which has felt like a really positive change to my overall well-being. Now, Mother Root have very kindly offered my community 15% off your first online order. You just need to use code LizzieR15 at the checkout. So that's LIZZIR15. LizzieR15 at the checkout. They currently ship across the UK and the US, so wherever you're listening from, you can give it a try if it sounds like something you'd enjoy. If you're enjoying the podcast, the best way to support it is to follow or subscribe wherever you listen. It really helps the show grow and make sure you don't miss future episodes. And if this episode resonates with you, feel free to share it with a friend who might enjoy it too. Thank you. Now back to the show. Let's talk about popular brands though in this country or the country you're in and how you can tackle that. Because not everybody's budget's going to allow them to go premium. And so if you are a little bit limited or you don't feel confident enough to step out of the brands that you're used to typically buying, then I get that. But here's a couple of tips you can do, okay, if you are limited in that way. I like Zara and I have a number of Zara stores around me. But if I want a really good new season shopping experience and have much more choice given to me, I go into London. So I'm an hour away from London, so that's quite easy. So depending on where you live, wherever your next really big city is, and what you'll find with cities, particularly if you've got popular brands, they have more than one store. And I always start with their biggest store or in their most popular shopping district, because what you find is they will put items in there just for a few weeks. As soon as they sold out, something new will be in there because it's the nature of the shopping there, you see. In the big cities, they don't hold on to a lot of stock. The stock turns at a much faster rate than if you're in a smaller town. And therefore, they want to encourage city shoppers to come back. And the only way to do that is the stock turn. If you want something exciting and new that's going to be harder for other people to get hold of, that is one way you can do it. I have always found that works for me. Often now, not everything that's in store is online. You can kind of tell by when you walk into the store, the first items you're met with, for me, they're the hotspots. Hotspots in the fact that they are actually presenting to you their most newest collection, and it's highly likely that once it's gone, it's gone. And so rather than looking at the back of the store and hunting through any of that, if you want newness, that is probably the place to be. Yeah, they might be able to buy it online for a while, but if you're doing some of the other steps that I've said about wearing it early, getting what you're wearing adapted over the weeks that you're wearing it, so it's always looking slightly different, that I just feel is a really good approach. If you can't get into a city, then your best next option is just to shop in another town. I've done this previously with Topshop. I used to have Topshop in my own town. Well, obviously Topshop doesn't exist in local towns anymore in the UK, but I used to make sure that I had something a bit different. I actually used to travel about an hour away, not into London, into a different kind of bigger town, and I used to shop in their Topshop there to have different choice. If you are having to stick with popular brands through budget reasons, through the fact that location-wise you can't really sort of easily get to another town, I don't really advocate lying. It's not really what I'm about. If you listen to my story about Styling Matters, the whole reason I started Loved by Lizzie that involved into Styling Matters is as soon as you meet me and you happen to say, oh, I like your top, out blurts where I got it from, probably the price I paid, what season I bought it in. I'm a walking, talking catalogue. I don't know why I remember so much about product details in that way, but I just do. It comes naturally to me. So this kind of lying bit that I'm going to recommend is, and only do this if emotionally you get really upset. Everyone's going to have various levels of who is copying their style. And it could be that kind of work colleague who just feels a little bit over invested in what you do and how like how you spend your time and what you're buying. We've all worked with a work colleague like that. Or, if it is your sister or another family relative who always seems that interested in where you're buying, why you're buying it, then there's a few ways you can literally lie and say it's old season. I mean, let's be honest, as women, we've all done that with our husbands or partners. If they're going, is that new? And you go, no, 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 last season, I've bought it before. You should have seen me wearing it last winter. So that that little lie should come quite naturally. Or and this is not difficult to do because I don't mind people cutting out labels, especially if let's not get into the world of sizing and how sizing can be an emotional situation anyway. But if you cut out labels out of all your garments, who cares where you've bought it from? Who cares what size it is, right? If it's your item, you're owning it, you don't want anyone to know where it's from. Cut the labels out, okay? And then you can simply go, oh, I can't remember. It might be Mango, it might be M&S. Do you know, I bought it about a month ago and I cut labels out and I'm really sorry, I can't remember which one. You're kind of lying, but you're kind of not, okay? So that's one way. If you really feel that the person that's copying your style has kind of perhaps crossed a line that's a little bit more uncomfortable. So I've got two more coming up. The next one is the most obvious, buy secondhand. Now, I'm not the most biggest vintage queen. I put my hands up to it. I very rarely find anything in vintage markets and that. I probably have more luck with accessories, particularly with jewelry, less so with clothing. I've bought the occasional jacket, but I definitely know obviously younger people are really into vintage and and do a lot of that. And, that's one way. If you are good at finding and you have the patience, I think this is my downfall. I don't really have the patience for it. But when you do your planning for the season and you do your what looks you want, then you could take a day and go around the charity shops, or you could use all the optimizing searching tools that they have now on eBay and Vinted and that, where you can literally hunt for certain items and buy it at a better price or buy vintage, something that's a good few years old. Or go see some older relatives, particularly if you know that that would have been something they would have worn at that period of time and go, do you still own any of this? I mean, if you've got a lot of older relatives, that could be a real gold mine. So, secondhand vintage pieces, that's what's so fabulous about it. I've got jewelry pieces that I know when I wear them, nobody can copy it. Nobody. And I love that. It's unique for me. I love the story behind some of my vintage pieces and bringing them back out. I've got pieces now that I bought 10, 15 years ago. And when I bring them out today, telling the story about them, there's no way anyone can copy that. And I think if you've got that in jackets and coats and boots and handbags, it will just make you feel that you are working really hard to keep yourself authentically you. And I think when you feel confident with that, you're going to be a lot less bothered about people copying your style. Now, my last tip is challenging. It's taken me a while to actually be able to do this, but there's huge benefits to it, by the way. So, I don't often buy week in, week out. I know that a lot of fashionistas do. I tend to start the season and have a really good shop because I want to get my cost per wear. I want to have fun playing, blending it in with my existing wardrobe. And I think the earlier you start the season, the more you get out of it. But there is a little thing you can do, and I do this. I buy and then don't wear it for a while. Now, you won't get the dopamine hit. I'm just going to put that out there. If you're one of these people, you need to have a lot of newness and you want to show it off the minute it's out for that dopamine hit. You're not going to get that. And I think actually some of the more stylish people I know do the drip feed, as I call it. So, what you need to do is really plan what you plan to wear for the season. Shop as best as you can, as early as you can, but a few of them you're going to have to put away in your wardrobe. And then as the weeks go by, as you're evaluating what you're wearing for the next week, you take out one or two things you've been wearing the week before, and then you drip feed in some newness. And if you are looking at your style week by week and constantly going, I wore that pair of boots for the last 2 weeks, I'm banned mentally from wearing them for the next 2 weeks, and you remove them out and put something new in, this is how your wardrobe flows and how your creativity flows. And I think by the time you wear some of the new items that you will have owned for 4 to 6 weeks, they won't be available anymore, or they're going to be harder to find, or that size might be out. So that's a great way, I think, you can combat this copying your style. You're already ahead of the game because you've got the item, but it's going to be really harder for people to track down something you are wearing because you bought it weeks ago. And there's something quite fabulous, I think, about the mysteriousness of an outfit and that blended way of wearing new with existing with vintage. That is a really stylish outfit rather than wearing everything new head to toe for a season ahead. That's not really style, is it? Let's be honest. That's just no different to walking into a store and go, I'm just going to buy the mannequin. There's no creativity there. And that's somebody who loves fashion. That's not necessarily somebody who's good at style. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, do follow or subscribe to Styling Matters wherever you listen to podcasts. It really helps support the show and means you won't miss future episodes. You can also find more from me on Substack at Styling Matters and over on Instagram at lizzie.richardson. Styling Matters is written, produced and published by me, Lizzie Richardson, and I'll see you next time.